when evening began to lower its dark wings over the village and the sun had disappeared beyond the horizon, the young people gathered for an evening of fun. This event did not happen every day, and even in those times when nothing special was happening, the youth eagerly awaited such moments. Together, they forgot about all the hardships, sang songs, danced, and told cheerful stories. But for Oksana, it was more than just entertainment. For her, it was a chance to escape the monotony of village life, from constant arguments with her parents, and from the feeling that her life had become trapped in the circle of daily chores. She was smart and independent, and, despite her youth, always yearned for something more. And that's why Oksana didn't enjoy holidays that merely entertained, offering nothing of value that could change her life. Nikola, on the other hand, could not come to terms with her fearless appearance, her stubbornness, and extraordinary determination. His eyes looked at her with disdain, although he himself didn't fully understand why he felt that way. She always won in arguments, always stayed firm, and that caused him pain. And so, that night, Nikola decided he would be the one to dispel the myth of her fearlessness. He was sure it would be easy because the girl wouldn't be able to stand by her words when she went to the cemetery at midnight. But was it too treacherous? Nikola started the conversation, initially without hints. But when Oksana laughed, radiating her unwavering confidence, he realized that she wasn't afraid. And then he said, "Well, Oksana, you're really stubborn, but if you're so sure of yourself, you surely won't refuse to go to the cemetery at midnight." Oksana looked at him, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, but her eyebrows furrowed slightly, not understanding why this boy looked so persistent. "Am I afraid? Are you laughing?" she said, her voice firm and calm, like someone who knew they wouldn't lose. "Indeed," Nikola replied, slyly smiling. "Well, I won't believe it until I see it." With laughter and jokes, they went off to the evening festivities. But in Nikola's heart, a cunning idea had already taken root. Everyone was laughing, dancing, singing, but his thoughts were consumed with just one thing. How would Oksana prove her courage? By the end of the evening, when the first minutes of midnight began to envelop the village in cold, Oksana slowly approached Nikola. Her gaze was so determined and calm that all conversations around them stopped. "Well, Nikola, ready to see who's not afraid," Oksana said, and her voice became so serious that even Nikola felt an indescribable chill run down his spine. Nikola, not understanding why her words had such an effect, chuckled quietly. "Seems like you don't understand that you're going to the cemetery at midnight. This isn't a joke. Are you sure you're ready for this?" He noticed how Oksana gathered herself and walked towards the cemetery. Everyone was laughing and watching her, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had become part of something much bigger than he had anticipated. A few minutes later, when she was no longer around, Nikola decided it was time for his own plan. He began carefully planning how to scare her. What exactly was she most afraid of? Then an idea struck him. He grabbed an old white sheet and, to gain weight in his own eyes, headed to the cemetery after her. His steps echoed among the graves. He approached a tombstone and, putting on the sheet, began running between the graves, trying to mimic a ghost, holding a small candle that cast shadows on the old tombstones. And then, when Oksana returned to the village, Her gaze had already changed. She ran up to Mikola with blazing eyes and said, "Is this how you want to scare me? Mikola, I see you. I saw everything, running between the graves like a ghost with that silly candle. I chased you, but you ran away, leaving only an empty sheet." Mikola froze. He couldn't understand how that was possible. He was sure she had imagined it. "What are you saying, Oksana? I was here with everyone. I didn't go anywhere," he protested. However, Oksana was no longer sure of what had happened. Her gaze became vacant. Her heart stopped, and her mind began to tear apart. She began asking others, and each one confirmed that Mikola had been with them the whole time. This added fear to her heart, and suddenly it dawned on her that she hadn't been chasing Mikola, but someone else, whether it was a spirit or something much more terrifying. She started holding her head with her hands. Her face turned pale. It seemed like the whole world had collapsed on her. She trembled and began to gasp for air, and in front of her eyes the stories of the elders spun. When they spoke of the mysterious guardian of the cemetery, the one who comes at night to remind the living that the peace of the dead is not something to play with, and Oksana, unable to bear this heavy revelation, lost consciousness. The young people gathered around, their faces showing panic and fear, but they didn't know what to do. They lifted her and carried her home, all in one group, unaware of what had happened to her. When she came to, her parents tried with all their might to understand what had happened to their daughter. They couldn't believe that something more had occurred than just a mood swing or physical exhaustion. Oksana's mother and father laid her on the bed, but in their hearts a secret flickered, a mystery that could leave more questions unanswered than they could ever imagine.